Before we get started here, Iowa postgame with Coach Gary Close. Want to thank our sponsor, Brad Van Meter, and his State Farm team down in Des Moines. Call Brad for an opportunity at saving lots of money on auto insurance. Perhaps it's your renter's policy or even maybe it's life insurance. Talk to Brad about how he and his team can help you save money and get great coverage from a team that will care about you and your family's needs. Give Brad a call. He's down in Des Moines. Give him a call at 515-256-6480. That's 515-256-6480. Or visit his website. It's www.bradvanmeter.com. And as always, want to thank Iowa Smokehouse. Tasting is believing with their beef jerky, their meat sticks, their steak bites, even their ketchups and barbecue sauces. You'll never need to look elsewhere for game day snacking or snacking on any day. I know for me, I really get into snacking once the NFL playoffs start, and we're there, folks. We're entering postseason play, and, of course, bowl games are underway. Lots of bowl games today, in addition to all the college basketball. Visit iowasmokehouse.com and use the code Hawkeyes for 15% off your order, and if you put in a $50 order, you'll get free shipping, courtesy of Iowa Smokehouse. Thank you to Iowa Smokehouse for sponsoring the show. With that being said, we welcome in Coach Gary Close to the show.
Corey.
Gary, how are you?
I'm good, thanks. How are you?
I'm good. Today was a little bit of
for Hawkeye fans.
Yeah, good day. Two comfortable wins. And I know I enjoyed myself some college football. There was some really good college basketball games. The Big Ten had a decent day because there were a couple of wins for this conference that they needed. Mm-hmm. We can talk about that a little bit. I'm talking about the men's game specifically, but couple wins at the top of the conference desperately needed, but lots to get to. Iowa, and we'll start with, of course, the men, which we channel you in here for the men. We're kind of doing a joint dual post game show this evening because of the doubleheader. But this was a bounce back win that was desperately needed. Jess Settles talked about it during the broadcast. That's not a very good Florida A&M team. I don't think we need to try to fool people into thinking that they are. But you've been on the other side of losing streaks. So when your team is sort of reeling and you got some time off, how important is it for you to come out of the gates strong to start that next game?
Yeah, you want to start feeling good about yourself. You've struggled, and confidence might be a little waning, and you never know how teams are going to react coming off of final exams and things like that. So I think taking everything into consideration, it was a good performance by Iowa against a team that's not very good, but you don't want to schedule a team that's real good when when your practices are disjointed and with final exams and things like that. So it's a step in the right direction. They've got ways to go yet, but I'm sure they feel a lot better about themselves than they did a week ago.
I'll just share one thing I said to you in a text message toward the beginning of the game. And I've expressed this before on the air, but it's a little bit frustrating having grown up in central Iowa. When you see games down at the Well, it'd be nice to see games that are competitive, games against good teams, opportunity for neutral court wins. It's interesting that someone brought it to my attention. If you're looking at the net, as the net currently stands, the net rankings, there are going to be very few opportunities for home quad one wins from here on out. There just aren't enough teams in the Big Ten that qualify. So it'd be nice to get and have an opportunity at one. They didn't have an opportunity at one today. This is a terrible team they're playing. And no offense to Florida A&M. They have been bad for a while, and they're trying to rebuild things and, of course, use the portal. A lot of mid-majors. I don't even know. Would you call them? Are they considered a mid-major, Gary?
Probably mid to low, and they played more towards low.
Yeah. They played a good schedule. I mean, they talked about they played Florida, and I think they played. Now, I don't know if that was a mistake, but was it Jess or was it his partner that said that Oregon traveled out there and played at Florida A&M? That was said during the broadcast.
Yeah, that's a little surprising, but maybe maybe they had another game out there too and wanted to get an extra game while they're flying all the way out, get an extra win while they're flying out there. So,
that would be a strange game to schedule, but
yeah, it would be.
Anyways, my point is, I'm wondering, Gary, now in hindsight, we've seen this team struggle over the last couple of weeks. I'm talking about Iowa. We always talk about Fran building his schedules to his teams. Is it possible that, this is a type of game where maybe Iowa wasn't forced to schedule a low to mid-major team, but, it's one of those things where Fran realized, hey, we need to build some wins in December because he may have seen this tough stretch that this young team was going to face.
I don't think there's any doubt. I think that combined with the fact that they're coming off finals, you just trust me. And finals week is a mess. You got guys got tests all different times, and one day of practice you got 5 guys, next day you got 4, and they want to get out and study, and it's very disjointed. So you got to be careful. We've seen it already this week with Northwestern. I think it's a good example. I can almost guarantee you they were coming off of finals, and it's a decent team they play, but they lose at home because they don't play very well. So this is a weird time of the year to play. So you got to be careful who you schedule.
Well, and you might be kind of being kind to Northwestern. I don't know that Chicago State has ever been a decent team. Are they better this year?
They had beaten somebody else, I think, but no, I don't think they're great. No, but
they're typically pretty bad.
Yeah, but they, I saw a fair amount of that game, and they had a couple of players that are fairly decent. So, but Northwestern had chances to win, didn't do it. So I think it was their first home game in 40 some years where they'd been ranked, and that lasted literally one game. So got to be careful.
So before we delve into the stats, and we're kind of first talk about the men because that was the first game in the schedule, and I know that's the one, Gary, you're more so invested in. Of course, having been a former assistant coach on the staff back in the day under Dr. Tom, I want to ask you about the Well. How often did you get to coach at Wells Fargo Arena? I'm assuming at some point during your tenure.
We played Drake at the old Veterans Coliseum, right? Yeah.
All right.
Now that was back in the day where we played Drake every other year at their place, and we played Northern Iowa every other year at their place. And we had some battles with both teams. I believe I did coach a high school game at Wells Fargo.
Was that when you were at Regina?
A state tournament game, I believe so. But as a coach at Iowa, I don't think I ever played there.
Got to get those seats, those ugly red seats updated. I just think it makes the arena look so old.
How long has that arena been there?
That's a good question. I don't know.
Yeah.
Doug is signaling in the chat. He's saying, I think 20 years.
Okay.
Something like that. I don't know. We'll get him. We'll get him on here. 70 years? What's Doug saying? Doug, just join us real quick, Doug. We'll bring you back. But how many years is Wells Fargo Arena?
2007.
Oh, 2007.
And the Knapp Center opened in 92. And the Vets Auditorium was home arena from 1955 to 1997 for the Drake Bulldogs, or 1992 for the Drake Bulldogs.
Wells Fargo was built in 2007.
Yes.
So
I've been alive since 96, Doug, and I don't remember it being built. That's insane to me. I thought it existed in the 90s. Why are the chairs so 80s? The chairs look like 80s.
For Iowa. We're behind the time. No, right, Coach. Iowa used to play Drake home and away in one season. You can look it up in the 70s. They used to do it.
I can probably believe. I can believe that. And Drake was good.
When Drake was really good.
Yeah,
home and away against Drake in the same season. Vets was the barn. Yeah, because Kirk Warner played there in the 90s for the Arena Bowl. Yep. And I remember Vets quite well.
Yeah,
and
I do too. But man, you talk about antiquated. Have you been in the new? I don't want to segue. Have either of you been to what Vets is?
No, I don't think I have. I might have gone to a Iowa G League game.
I had season tickets for the Energy at one point.
Yeah, I think I did too. I think I went to one game.
I'm not talking. I'm not asking.
The new Vets, the
ballroom
in place or whatever.
Yes,
the ballroom. I walked through there when the UNI Iowa, when they had the Classic, Hy-Vee Classic, the 4 teams. I walked in there. They had stuff for each of the 4 teams.
It's very nice. Very nice. It's obviously not a sports venue now, but they have concerts and other events there now, and it's very nice.
That was one of the agreements with the company that they would keep Vets and make that the Hall of Fame or the sports thing down there, the Hy-Vee Hall of Fame thing. They would keep Vets there. That was one of the agreements of making that new arena, was that they would keep Vets there. And it doesn't make sense to have 2 arenas, so they made it into a ballroom.
Doug, I'm going to bring you right back. I'll bring you right back here in a second.
Way to go, Doug.
Yeah, good information. He's an Iowa guy. I knew he'd know the answer to that. So let me just kind of run through the stat sheet real quick. Iowa, again, with dominant victory. And this was I don't know if it was what the doctor ordered. I've never been in this situation, Gary. I asked you about coming off a losing streak. Would you rather be able to play a good team to get off the schneid with the risk of maybe losing another, or would you rather just be able to have a beat down on someone?
Yeah, I think it depends on where you're at. If you're struggling, and as we mentioned, the time of the season, it's not all bad. Everybody gets a chance to play, and so it's not all bad. They know they got to get better, and they're going to be harder teams ahead. So you're always going to have a few of those on your schedule, and this is probably the right time to have it.
A couple observations real quick, and I do this a lot with Coach Patterson. I haven't done it as much with our show, so I should probably do that. Bryce Sanford is in a funk, isn't he?
A little bit.
Like, he just can't make anything right now. And heading into the season, I remember saying, and again, I'd never seen him at Big Ten level. You watch him in high school, but I remember thinking he might be the biggest contributor of this freshman class because of his ability to shoot. He seems to have no confidence, and it looks lost out there right now at times.
I think it is a confidence thing, and shooting it really affects your shooting. So hopefully, he can shoot his way out of that, because he's got some ability. But I agree. I think his confidence is down.
Maybe number 24 is just not the number to wear, because Gabby Marshall struggled from 3 all year, and
change that number.
Yeah, Bryce Sanford struggling. 1 of 5 today for Price. Had 3 points. Still getting played, though. I give kudos to Fran, because the team is struggling, and I don't know if, what other options he would consider in place of the 13 minutes that a guy like Price is logging. But I'll give Fran credit for this. He doesn't give up on his guys.
True.
And he lets them, especially his shooters, he lets them shoot out of it. And, what else are you going to do in certain situations? That's what Price is really good at. That's what
he can very well see him shooting real well in practice. And he just figures, hey, it's a matter of time that they're going to leave him open, and he's going to make him pay for it.
And it's amazing, Iowa today with the 36-point win, and you only got 6 points from Patrick. You got 5 points from their leading scorer, Ben Krikke. You get 5 points from Josh Dix. You get 3 points from from Price. DeSante logs 7. Lodgy gets 9. But then you have a big day for Owen Freeman with 14. Tony Perkins adds 12. Peyton Sanford has 13. That's balanced scoring, Gary.
Real balanced. Yeah, and a lot, I doubt anybody played much more than 20, 24 minutes with the way the game went. So those numbers will reflect that. No, Freeman gets double-double. So he's continuing to go in the right direction. In fact, I think a lot of the freshmen did some nice things out there. Brock Harding did. DeMemble hit a couple threes. So, and that's part of when you play teams like that maybe you can get a conference going a little bit when it's not such a pressure situation. So I thought all the freshmen held their own and had pretty good games.
14 minutes for Lodgy Dembele, and he had been struggling. I don't know what his numbers had been coming in, but he played well first couple games of the year, looked good against Creighton, and ever since Creighton, he'd kind of been off and lacking
That's
confidence.
kind of the way freshmen are. They're up and down. There's that when you get into play consistently, then you got them going in the right direction.
And as you mentioned, Owen has been relatively consistent. He's our RTI Threads player of the game. 14 points. He's efficient too, Gary. He doesn't put up a ton of shots. He's playing inside. He's not taking a bunch of jumpers, but he's pretty reliable around the rim. One of his misses was on a dunk, an uncontested dunk that he threw off the back.
Probably just laid it off the glass. Yeah, no, you're right.
Yeah, so 6 and 9, 11 boards, and he's our RTI Threads player of the game. And there's times when I think he's the best player on the team right now, frankly.
He's got a bright future. I like him a lot. I think he's got a chance to be good. Yep.
Do you have any more thought on the conversation of who the top dog is? You look at a stat sheet like today, you're like, I don't have any idea.
Yeah, no, not yet. It may never happen. It may it may be by committee. So that's okay. Teams can do that.
Can good tournament teams do that, Gary?
I think so. Yeah, I think it did, and then it could emerge. It's the season's still relatively early, but we'll see.
All right, let's go to our Iowa Smokehouse call-in line. We've got James with us. James, welcome.
What's up? How you guys doing?
Hi, James.
How you doing, Corey? It's been a while since I talked to you, so.
Doing good, man. How are you?
I'm good. Obviously, like you said, it's good to get 2 wins, and obviously you might like better competition. I felt like it was weird, obviously, because you talk about fan support, and obviously you look at the difference between the 2 games. I think that kind of shows you, obviously, what we've known all year, but.
Well, what was going on? I thought that if you had the women's game second, that at least
they said the tickets were. Some people said the tickets were separate. So there's 2 deals. You could buy either like a both game deal, or you could just buy them separately.
I'm not aware of that. How could you do that?
That's what somebody said online. I don't know if that's true though.
Yeah, but people say a lot of things online.
Or you could.
People, hey, James. People say a lot of things online, like the offensive coordinator has been hired, or things that aren't true.
I'm not saying I trusted them though. I didn't say.
Yeah.
I
believe they were sold. I know
the offensive coordinator hasn't been hired because I've got an interview and I haven't had it yet.
There you go. See, he's one of the 4, James.
There you go.
But no, I was surprised when you look, especially those seats down near the court, and you look at the men's game first, and I mean there were so many empty seats, and you're like, this game was sold out. This doubleheader was second game, the women, it was packed. It's just amazing to me that basically you're getting a free game for those that spent 50 or 60 or those lower seats, probably 100 plus, to see the women. You wouldn't show up for the men, but I can't read into what people are doing. So,
I mean, you might as well. I mean, to me, if I had tickets for both, I would show up to both. Like, there's no need for you not to. I mean,
yeah, I would too, but I did not today. So,
yeah, but no, I feel like obviously it was a good win, and to me, I'd rather, obviously, you want to play a tough team too, but you don't. You've kind of been on a skill lately, so maybe it's a good thing to play a little bit less competition. Maybe you can get your shots back normal, just feeling more comfortable again. Yeah. Kind of shooting the ball better for sure. And one name I think that stood out to me on the men's side at least was Lodgy. I felt like Lodgy played well again. It's weird to see him because he's kind of had flows where he's looked good at points this year, and then obviously the competition's been up and down, like tough when you play Purdue and Michigan and all them. So it's been tougher competition, but he's been a lot up and down this year. But it's good to see him when he does hit his stride sometimes.
Gary, he played one of his better games today, and like I said earlier, had 9 points, was 4 of 5 from the field, 3 rebounds. He's got some athleticism that not many other players on this team cultivate. What do you like about that young man?
Yeah, no, I agree with you. He looked like he was under control and confident and that's good. So I agree. As long he's got some athleticism to him, he's potentially got a chance to be a player. Just how quickly can he get it done, and how hard can he work, and things like that. So
for sure. And on the women's side, obviously, that early it was kind of back and forth. They were hitting shots. We were hitting shots early, like usually happens. But then we put away again. And Caitlin, 38 points. She had a really good day, I feel like. Obviously, she turned the ball over a lot in the first quarter. She had some kind of sloppy play in the first quarter, I feel like, passing the ball wise. Like, she was shooting well still, but she kind of was just throwing it around a little bit, I feel like.
Well, she does that.
Yeah, but I mean, when she can give you 38, I think that kind of all no one voids.
You talk about a green light. That is a green light.
Yeah, for sure.
Yeah. Go ahead, James.
No, I say go ahead. You go ahead first.
No, she's our other RTI Threads player again. 38 points. And I'll tell you what, I watched this game from start to finish, and I know this is a Cleveland State team that's down the Horizon League Player of the Year. She's out with an injury. This is a good team last year, Gary. This is a team, Cleveland State, that made the tournament. Fought against Villanova for a while in the first round and fell, but that's a decent mid-major team without their best player.
They're like 9-1.
Yeah,
they're good.
They haven't played anybody, but I think, I don't know who they lost to, somebody in the MAC, but they've been good. And just from watching this game, just the eye test told me this is how Iowa's going to win late into the year. It's not with Caitlin shooting 30 to 35 shots. I'm okay with some.
Uh-oh.
I think he cut out.
Yeah, we kind of lost him. He must not be paying the bills. Hopefully we'll get him back here. Not often you have Corey lost for words.
Maybe.
Oh.
We'll see if he comes back here.
Yeah.
All right. Sorry about that.
You're not paying the bills?
I picked up, Jess sent me a referral to his internet service, so we're trying out Jess Settle's internet for a while, Gary.
Oh, that might be a problem.
I don't know where it coming up. My point is, I would rather this stat line, 21 shots, not 30 plus. I know she had 9 turnovers, but that means you're getting out in transition. Yeah, you'd like more than 5 assists, but this is how they win. And then you look across the board. I mean, you get a really good performance from Sharon Goodman. She adds, 9 rebounds, I believe. Pull up the box score here. Sharon for the day had 8 points, 10 rebounds. Molly Davis gives you 9 points. Gabby Marshall doesn't make a shot from 3 again, but if Kate Martin's giving you 15 and Anna Stolke gives you 17 and 13, they score a lot of points. They're not going to have to be perfect defensively, Gary.
No, they got a lot of weapons. Yep, they're hard to guard. There's no question about it.
I feel like this is what you wanted to see. Obviously, 21, like you said, 21 shots is way better than 13. She still scored 38. So obviously, she can do a lot. Obviously, like we always talk about, and I hate to keep beating the same drum, but I don't know why she was in, like why they took all the 4 starters out and left her in the game. I have no idea on that. They said, "Oh, everybody's coming out except for Kaylin Clark," and in my head, I was like, "What are we doing?"
Well, you know what, James, I am no longer going to complain about it because I have accepted that this is how it is.
I mean, I accept it too, but in my head, you can accept it too, but you still in your head be like, "What are you doing?" Like you're still questioning your head a little bit. But I'm accepting, like I know it's going to happen, but I'm just like, you took every starter out except for 1. Like, what's your point in that?
I don't.
A little curtain call for a top player. I get it. She's going back to Des Moines. That's where she's from, and she gets a little curtain call. And it wasn't much after the 4 stars.
Yeah, I mean, it wasn't that long. It was like a minute maybe, but What's the next game for each? I know the boys play UMBC on Wednesday, right?
Yes, the men play Wednesday evening at Baltimore County. I don't know anything about them, Gary. I don't think they're normally.
They're in Maryland. That's about all I know.
They're in Baltimore County. That's what I know. But I'm not sure on the women. The women play. I should know this because we're talking about it. The women play Loyola on Thursday, I believe.
Loyola Chicago
Loyola Chicago. They're 5-4
at home.
at home, and then they get conference play on the 30th of December. So pretty very slow second half.
Do the boys have 2 more games before conference play or 1?
They have 2 more. They had Northern Illinois and they've got UMBC.
Yep.
Yeah,
but no, it's good to see, and obviously hope for the men's side at least too that those couple games between UMBC and Northern Illinois can kind of get them back in their shooting flow, and maybe get them. Obviously, their defenses look bad a little bit, and I know maybe didn't get better at getting out their spots. And I feel like the press, and obviously I know Florida A&M is not a great team, but I do feel like the press did give them fits for a little bit, but I also saw some holes in it when they got past the second line. They did get easy layups because it was 2-on-1 most of the time when they were getting there. But for me, it's like it did look good at some points too when they kept it in the backcourt. But
Gary, I was going to ask you about that. I'm glad you brought it up, James. The press, when it breaks down like that and you give up an easy dunk or easy layup on the other end, Jess made a point of kind of calling out Ben Krikke at least one of those times, saying, hey, he can't be that sagged up, if you will. Is that the truth as far as whatever type of press you're teaching?
Somebody's got to get the rim protected, and they might have somebody different depending on the rotation or whatever. And if you're not a shot blocker, then you got to get in front and take a charge or body up, and just don't give them a point blank layup that even Florida A&M will make, and better teams will really take advantage of you. So it was a little feast or famine. They did get some turnovers. They also gave up some buckets, and that's where you want to shore it up to where you can get a few turnovers. But if you can prevent people from scoring or getting good shots, then it's a positive for you.
I get the feeling that Iowa does work on that press a lot. Am I reasonable in saying that, Gary? Like, I think they spend time. That's not something that you just decide you're going to do. Like, it takes some practice to be able to know.
Yeah, definitely. Yeah, I'm sure they do. Yeah.
So, I look at that a couple of different ways, James. Does it create turnovers? Yes, at times. But B, I do wish, personally, from my perspective, that Iowa might spend a little bit more time just working on fundamental half-court defense and less time, getting your players to know all these different types of defenses and these full-court presses that could potentially create turnovers, but also easy buckets. So, but that's, again, like we're talking about Caitlin Clark playing late in game. You got to kind of accept that that's what Lisa Bluter does. This is what Fran does.
I completely agree with you. Obviously, I think more time on the man-to-man aspect is good of it. But like you said, as long as obviously you don't want those flaws when you get to a bigger game. But like against the Florida A&M, maybe you can shirt up for the next game, and it's something you can at least look at. And you still win the game, and you can try to look at and fix it against a team who is not as good as obviously the other team you play. But sometimes I also feel like it doesn't work against the better teams because we're not that sounded, if that makes sense. Like we kind of have the areas too, so we're not that sounded. So I don't feel like it works against the better teams.
Well, think about it. It worked 2 years in a row against Purdue. We're talking about the full court press. Worked 2 years in a row against Purdue. Gave them a chance in those games. What do we see this year? I think Painter and company, they were ready for that press, and they blew them out of the gym. So you've got to be able to have a half-court defense to fall back on.
Yep.
And, against the really good teams. And Purdue, by the looks of what they did today, is a pretty darn good team.
And I know this is a football show, but I got one more question before I get off. All right, this is a basketball show, not a football show. But what's your thoughts on obviously Sullivan committing, and what's your thoughts on Dion coming back?
Well, James, I posted a video on Sullivan.
I haven't seen it yet, so I just.
Oh, okay, all right.
You can just give me a little glimpse of what your thoughts are. I'll watch the rest of it.
My thoughts are he's mobile. He doesn't have a ton of P5 offers. He is a mobile guy, good speed for a quarterback, if you will. Iowa, if you're looking ahead without the transfer portal, projecting, you've got Marco Lainez, James Reesar, and Jimmy Sullivan. Those are 3 mobile quarterbacks. So it's almost like the era of the statue quarterbacks at Iowa might be ending, which is, fans would put up no fight to that notion. He shows on tape to be able to throw the ball deep down the field, James, but man, I have a harder time even evaluating, and I'm no analyst, but trying to evaluate tape of a quarterback when you're looking at highlight film, because I
Yeah, because
guarantee
they're just going to show their best plays and not their worst plays. So
yeah,
you're
I
not
made
going
the
to be
comment
able
during
to
the
show
video,
ball.
James. I guarantee you, for those that rip on Spencer Petras and on Deacon Hill, if you go back and pull up Spencer Petras highlight film and Deacon Hill highlight film, they're going to look like Joe Montana out there. So
Not many interceptions on those tapes.
I don't think so.
Not many bad passes either, really. They
Not
show
many
all their
bad
good passes, But one more thing, obviously, it's good to have DeYoung back. I know he kind of struggled a little bit this year at times, but it's always good to have veteran leadership in that offensive line room. I feel like, especially for younger guys. He's been at Iowa 5-6 years. So I feel like it's a benefit to have, even in any sport. Even in basketball, if you have a 4th, 5th year guy, like it's still a benefit to have those guys who've been through it and understand what it's like to go through that. But it was a good night. Let the other callers get on, and hope you get your internet fixed, Corey.
Okay, thank you, James. Appreciate it. Yeah, I don't know what happened with the internet, but I guess if it happens again, it's all yours, Gary.
Hey, no problem.
All right. A couple things before we get to Doug. Esther in the chat. By the way, numbers up on the screen, 515-635-1601 if you want to call and ask Coach Close a question. Again, 515-635-1601. The link is in the description for StreamYard. Esther, I'm doing well. How are you? Good to have you here this evening. Thank you for being a part of the show as always. And I believe Bob had a comment that I wanted to ask you about, Gary. He's talking about Caitlin and her kind of reputation for complaining. And, you got to be very careful with what you say about this, because some people, and I've heard people say this, that if you criticize Caitlin Clark for kind of complaining and showboating and whatnot, that means you're misogynistic because the men are allowed to do it all the time. For the record, I have gotten on Connor McCaffrey for that for years, for complaining, and I get on Patrick for not, putting his head down and looking at the official. Heck, I'm a Mavs fan. I watch Luka Doncic do it every single night. So I think you almost have to take a similar approach with Caitlin that I do with Luka, that, hey, this dude is just great, or this gal is just great. And, part of what makes her great is the chip that she plays with, the chip that he plays with.
Yep.
Kind of have to accept that, don't you, Gary?
I think so. Yeah, I think a little bit of it for sure. If it gets real out of hand, then you got to do something. But I don't think it's gotten to that point.
So I can understand where you're coming from, Bob.
Yeah, I can too.
But I don't think that's going to change anytime soon. All right, let's go to our next caller here in our Iowa Smokehouse call-in line. We bring back Doug. Doug, welcome back.
Thanks. Thank you guys for listening to me. Corey, you need to put out your video on Monday about Scott Frost a couple hours earlier, because I had an hour-long conversation with my Nebraska friend about Scott Frost, and I don't want to do that again.
What was the
conversation? Just if Scott Frost was a good fit or not at Iowa, and then
it's and I said in the video, no offense to whoever's reporting that stuff, it's not true. Like, I don't know where these rumors come from, and I just wish that I understand that it's a hot time for news and people want to be the first to report things, but that was never even, no.
I just want you to know there was credible people saying it too. And as you said, I mean, there was, I mean, maybe you don't think they're credible, but
I don't know who the credible people are, but I don't care either, because I don't, people get wrong information at times. They get bad information.
Yeah. But your video made total sense. And, I'm not going to listen to that stuff anymore, because I have no idea. And they'll probably hire someone I never heard of. I never heard of Kirk Ferentz before 1999. So, who knows?
You may, I would guess that you may know who the eventual hire is.
Maybe. I mean, you guys keep throwing out, not Corey, because you're not an analyst, but those analysts keep throwing out names. So I used to have a big problem with us scheduling the SWAC schools and having these big victories. And what you said about the net rankings is so true. And I pointed out there was only two. At one time, there was only one team in top 30. It has to be top 30 at home to count as quad one win. I disagree with Coach. Chicago State is historically probably the worst Division I program. I mean, like they can't find. They're independent. They can't find a conference that wants them.
They look good the other night.
Yeah. Well, that was my point. I don't know how you can beat Purdue and lose to Chicago State. This conference makes no sense. We're not the only ones that are inconsistent. That makes no sense to me. I don't, like I said, I don't like it. People have done stories about the HBC schools having to do this travel plan. You know, Florida A&M has to lose by 30 or 40 to Iowa State tomorrow. I always, as a lower end athlete that had to compete at an NAIA school, I don't think it's fair and it doesn't look right. But it all is better than what North Dakota State did. Did you see the score of the North Dakota State game? North Dakota State beat a team, not even a Division III team, like a team from some outside conference, like 120-20. And I just don't know where you get any. I don't know where you get anything from that. And but I mean, at least they looked the part today against Florida A&M, and they. I mean, I didn't expect anything worse. I didn't think they would do anything better. What do you try to work on? And do you guys? I know coaches will always say every team's a hard team. I don't expect you know what the spread is of a game, coach. But what do you tell a team when you know you're probably you're big time favorite? What do you tell a team? What should Iowa have been working on this week? And did they? I mean, the offensive rebounding, stuff like that. Did they accomplish anything by playing Florida A&M today? And what improvements did you see, if any? Because it's not very good.
Yeah, I think that's a good question. No, I think you got to be honest with the team when you do a scouting report. Hey, here this is what they are, and this is what they do, and in some cases about us getting better and improving, and with our record, we got to work, we got to get better, we got to improve. So, and I saw that. I mean, it's like I said, this time of the year, you're coming off finals. You can't just schedule one hard game after another. And so I saw some progress. Some guys maybe gained a little bit of confidence, and some guys got some minutes. They need minutes. You need minutes to get out there and play. It's just beyond practice. And so, but I think you got to be truthful. You start making things up, then they're not going to believe you when you trying to get things across. So, you hit some strengths that they got in you, and hey, this is it. This is what we're trying to do. So, these are our goals. These are our objectives, and we're trying to get better. And this is another chance to get better.
Yeah. I kind of try and go through some different Iowa teams in the Fran era, and he's had some teams that started off bad. The Peter Jocks senior year, they started off 3-5. That team eventually went 18 and it won 18 games.
Missed out on the tournament though.
Yep. But they were the last four in, and they did play in the NIT. So, I hope they're. We've talked that they might not be on the bubble, but there's still a lot of basketball to be played. They should win the next two. Northern Illinois is not a gimme, I wouldn't think. They played Northwestern tough, and I think any team that's not in the net top 100, Iowa should win. But after Eastern Illinois and seeing some of that stuff in Chicago State, I'm not going to take anything as a gimme. I'm going to the game on Wednesday, but I think that they still have a lot to play for. Hopefully, they're 6-5, and that's what it is. And
I'll tell you what, Doug. I think I'll just say this, and if you want to jump off, that's fine. But I think that loss to Michigan could be the one that comes back to bite them in March. I don't know how good Michigan is. They played a nobody today.
Eastern Michigan. Yeah. Eastern
Michigan. They haven't been good. And now Juwan Howard's coming back. So maybe they get a little bit better if he's the full-time coach again. I don't know if that's the case. I don't know that they have the dogs. They lost a lot last year, as we've discussed. A couple players the first round of the draft. They lose Hunter Dickinson to Kansas. So I just that game could come back to bite them because it was a home game.
Yeah.
You lose them on the road, but you got to hold serve at home against this Big Ten conference without any good resume building wins in the non-con. The best non-conference win is neutral court against Seton Hall. And is Seton Hall any good? What have they done since Iowa's win down there, Doug?
Did they lose to Rutgers?
Have they played Rutgers already?
They played Rutgers the other night.
Okay, I don't know, Gary. Do you know?
I don't know either.
I mean, I have my phone, but that's the one. I think they lost to Rutgers. Even nothing you said there is upsetting me, Corey. I mean, people though, you know what? We live in Big 12 country. People think 11 teams from the Big 12 will go, and only 4 from the Big 10 will go. So I wouldn't be. Well, that's what they're saying.
More than 4.
Well,
that would be a record of all kinds of.
By the way, if you didn't already know, Gary knew this. Rutgers then went on to lose to Princeton. So
Rutgers beat Seton Hall and then
Princeton's
lost.
good.
Yeah, no, I'm sorry. Seton Hall beat Rutgers. Let me clarify.
Look, Seton Hall beat Rutgers.
Seton Hall did beat Rutgers. Thank goodness. So Iowa beat Seton Hall here a few weeks ago down in San Diego. You were there for that game, Doug.
Yep.
Since that game, Seton Hall did upset the 23rd ranked UNLV Rebels today.
That's
upset the 23rd ranked Rebels, Gary, by a final score. By the way, they were undefeated heading into the game. Seton Hall won 84-54.
Whoa.
So there you go.
Smack them.
There's go Pirates, right?
Yeah.
Go Pirates the rest of the way.
Hey,
Arr!
I'm a Pirates. I mean, those people were nice people, and they travel all the way from New Jersey to California, and anything helps Iowa look good. That's the reason why sometimes when people go, I hate Iowa State. Well, if Iowa State loses every game, we look bad. At
some point, it doesn't really matter when you lose by 30. It doesn't really matter what Iowa State does. Like, you'd rather them look good, right? But like, if they end up being a middle of the pack team, if they're an elite team, you still got absolutely shredded.
Well, the other thing I was going to bring up, because it always feels like I ask Coach if he knows somebody, but Cleveland State, I read this book. I don't know if I can put it. It's the Breaking the Bob Knight Season on the Brink book on my way out to San Diego.
Mm-hmm.
And you know why Cleveland State's known? It's because they were like the first Cinderella team. They beat Bobby Knight the year that book was. And when I was out there, I kept on reading Cleveland State. Did you know Kevin Mackey at all?
I did not know Kevin Mackey. I've met him, but he was an assistant with Coach Davis at Boston College. Yeah, and then he went on to get a head job. Yeah, and he did. He had quite a run with that Cleveland State team. They were fun to watch, and they were the darlings of the NCAA tournament that year.
Yeah, Cleveland State plays in a pretty big arena. I think they were wanting to move up, but some things happened within their program, I guess, or something. But yeah, I wasn't sure if you knew Kevin Mackey. I know he was a Dr. Tom assistant, but that was at BC.
Right.
I guess my last thing is for either of you, Corey, you can answer it. The one thing, the stat I actually took the most pride in today, and I know I probably should take any pride in any stat against Florida A&M, but we did hold them to only 52 points. And yes, on ESPN, it says they played Oregon at home.
Good for them. I don't know that I
see if Oregon played another game in Florida.
That's what it has to be that.
They did.
I'll check real quick, but for the record, maybe that means we don't want Oregon in the Big Ten if they're willing to go on the road and play at Florida A&M.
I was very confused about that. So
I'll look it up.
But that's what. So the person on there, and they must have got it wrong on ESPN or something. I don't know. Because
well, I'll tell you what. I feel really stupid here, boys. You know how Gary, don't say anything. You know how when an old person, no offense, Gary. You know how when an older person struggles with technology? Well, that is me right now. Normally, I'm quick on the money. I was just giving you results on Seton Hall, and I was looking at women's basketball. So Princeton is not a top 25 team in women's basketball. Princeton did not beat Rutgers in men's basketball. Let me give you what happened with.
Yeah, I was very confused there for a second because I
think Princeton did beat Rutgers in men's basketball.
So they swept them. They swept them in both sports.
Seriously, I think they did.
Okay, let's just look real quick.
Princeton has beaten the Big Ten team this year.
Actually, okay. So Seton Hall. I'm looking at the men now.
Okay.
Rutgers did beat Seton Hall. You're right about that, Doug. That was a week ago. Yeah. Seton Hall beat Monmouth Tuesday. They've had some time off. They actually play Mizzou coming up tomorrow. Lost to Baylor. Seton Hall lost to Baylor by 18.
Oh, they're playing a good schedule.
Lost to USC down in San Diego, and lost to Iowa. They haven't beaten anybody. Is the problem? They haven't beaten anybody.
And they're probably in the bottom of the Big East too. But
they need to win. They get UConn. They get UConn next week. You can beat the number 5 team in the country and maybe win against an SEC opponent tomorrow. That might help. But.
Would help.
Yeah. No. The stat that I was kind of, because I was comparing scores and it doesn't mean anything, but we did hold Florida A&M, and I always think that's improvement defensively, to lower than any other team. When they talk about Nebraska, Creighton, Oregon, all the other teams, we held them to 52 points. Their lowest before that, which was really weird, was 54 by 3 different schools. I do take that as somewhat of meaning something. It probably, they run a chat, that means absolutely nothing. It probably does mean absolutely nothing. But I thought there were some improvements on defense. The other thing about
whoa, hold on, time out. What are you talking about?
There was improvements.
Are we talking about the men or the women?
Men.
You're evaluating Iowa's defense.
I said none of it matters against Florida A&M, but I'm trying to be optimistic. I'm always optimistic.
Hold on a second. I have these scores reversed. I can't get the scores right. I have them reversed, but they gave up 65 points, but it's Florida A&M.
No, they gave up 52 points.
What am I looking at? Why can't I get anything right?
Oh, you're confusing me more than the final score is 88 to 50.
Somebody give me the score. What's the score of the game? The final score for Iowa and Florida A&M, 88-52. Is that correct?
Yes.
Where did I get 88-65? I don't know where that came from. 88-52 is the final. Let me.
False facts here.
Wow.
That might be the lowest amount of points they've given up in Fran's tenure.
That's what I was questioning too, Coach. I was like 52. That's
low.
That's low. I mean, I know it's Florida A&M, but that's low. You know, because they scored 54 against Creighton and Nebraska. I mean, it means nothing. I know that, but 52 is pretty low, especially for Iowa. When most people think we don't play any defense. So, but I know it doesn't mean anything.
Sorry, Doug. Go ahead.
No, I was a good Hawk fan. I'll tell you that.
That's fine. Again, I'll get more confused. Maybe we'll get more confused by starting to tell who the offensive coordinator is. I better jump off, but okay. I really appreciate having some people to talk about my Hawkeyes with, and don't ever have another 1 hour conversation about Scott Frost.
Thank you, Doug. Appreciate the call.
See you, Doug.
All right. I think I have the scores correct now, right, Gary? 104-75, the women.
Yeah, that looks good.
88-52, the men. Yeah, 52 points. That's I guess that's something. Do you want to guess? I'm going to pull this up real quick, just for the sake of this conversation. Do you want to guess where Florida A&M ranks in KenPom?
I would say at or near the very bottom.
Well, let me just check her. So Texas A&M, Prairie View is ahead of them. Texas A&M Corpus Christi is ahead of them. Texas A&M Commerce is ahead of them, and here comes Florida A&M peeling in ahead of Alabama A&M. Florida A&M is the second worst A&M school in the country at 3.
All those initial schools, man, they're usually not very good.
With the exception being Texas A&M.
Texas A&M, yeah.
Okay. Before we get to, we've got somebody on our phone line here. Before we get to our caller on the phone line, yes, the final scores today: the women defeating Cleveland State 104-75 behind a big performance from none other than Caitlin Clark. On the night, Caitlin had 38 points on 13 to 21 shooting, 3 of 3 from the free throw line, 5 boards, 5 assists, 9 turnovers. She is our RTI Threads player of the game. And our other RTI Threads player of the game is Owen Freeman. 14 points on 6 of 9 shooting, 11 boards, propelling the Hawkeyes to an 88-52 victory over, are they the Vipers? What's the Florida A&M mascot?
Rattlers, I think.
Rattlers. Okay. Well, Vipers, Rattlers, whatever. Again, good day to be a Hawk. No question about it. And, next couple of weeks are going to be opportunities to improve. Yep. And I guarantee you, Gary, I shouldn't say this to you because you're the former coach. I am not. Like, there's no way they spend the next week. Well, they play Wednesday. are they just spending the next few days when they're looking at film? They're just looking at this film. I would think they're still looking at film from Purdue, Iowa State, or do you just completely move on from those once you play?
Yeah, I think they're probably done with that. And they won't spend a whole lot of time with this one either, I would doubt. I think they'll be focused more on how they can get better and then getting ready for Wednesday night.
So you're just working on yourself and scouting Baltimore County.
Yeah, I think you start looking ahead, then you get yourself knocked off. Maybe that's exactly what Northwestern did. I don't know. But players will read that. They're not spending much time with this team. They must not be any good. And you just got to be consistent and solid and honest. And then, and it's a cliche, but take them one at a time while you're working on your stuff too. I'm sure they're working on some things they feel they got to get better within their own system. But I think you try to stick to your routine. You don't try to change it up too much.
RTI Threads sponsoring the show, proud supporter from the Hawkeye of the Storm. Check out the official apparel and merchandise at Cooper DeJean, CD3LacesUp.com, and other Hawkeyes, including Zach Lutmer, Carson Shire, Aiden Hall. RTI's NIL roster continues to grow. Visit www.rtithreads.com. Let's go to our Iowa Smokehouse call-in line. Thank you for calling Iowa Postgame with Coach Gary Close. Who's on the line?
This is Brian.
Brian or Ryan? I'm sorry.
Brian, I'm sorry.
Hey, Brian. How are you?
Hi, Brian.
I'm good. Hi. I just got a few quick little things. It was a great victory, great confident victory boost, centering, the losing streak, the last 3 games, and playing that good defense, holding them to 52 points. And, it's just a great confident booster after a 3-game losing streak to have. And like you're saying, Owen Freeman, I've been so impressed with him since day one, since he stepped on the court at Iowa. He's just can't wait to see what he's like when he's a upperclassman. He's just going to be a phenomenal player. He just has those intangibles that you can't coach. He just has a feel for the game, and he's going to get better and better.
Absolutely, yeah.
Yeah, I think those are good points. Yeah, he's got a chance. Just a question of keep improving. Just keep working on your game, add things to your game, get stronger. He does. He's got a chance to be a good player. And I think the other freshmen do too. I think it's a nice class.
I know you're not there every day in practice, Gary, but how good can he be based on what you have seen early?
I think he can be real good. I think he got good hands. He's a good athlete. He's going to get stronger. He's got some pretty good skill right now as a young player. It's just what can he keep adding? Just keep getting better and better and better. And hopefully he's the kind of guy that's hungry and is coachable and likes to soak everything up. And if that's the case, then he's got a chance to be a real good player. Yep.
Brian?
Yep. Yeah, I agree. He's just going to be fun. Yeah, I agree with the freshman classes. They're just going to get better as they get older and get more game experience. And hopefully, the younger Sanford can get out of the shooting slump. I know how that is. My son plays high school ball, and he's in a shooting slump right now himself. So I just tell him, just keep shooting. You get yourself out of it. But a couple things for Coach Close. I don't know if you guys picked up on. One was on the broadcast today that Settle said early in the game about something about his percentage and everything else, and he mentioned that you helped him when he was in school with his math or.
No, that's why he flunked. He got too much. He got too much help from him. Somebody texted me, said that he's amazing. That kid.
You're not listening to the broadcast. You muting Jess when you're watching the game?
I must have flipped over to something real quick and then came back and I missed it. I mean, I got 3 texts, a couple from my nephews that I helped him in his math class. If he had me help in his math class, he's in trouble.
Yeah, I almost texted you at the same time, but I thought, boy, he brings you up more than anybody else. You are living in his head.
Well, sometimes I text him while the broadcast is going on. I've actually given him some words that I want him to put into his broadcast. Like I might say, I want to hear stupendous. And then he'll do it. He'll stick it in the broadcast.
You're the reason he does that, Gary?
Great. Fun. And so I texted him. I said something about I think Caitlin Clark would be the best player on the Florida A&M team, hands down, and something like that. So I was waiting for him to say something like that, but then he must have thrown in up on his math class. Jess was an academic all Big Ten player.
Well, I will say this as it relates to his broadcast. He did say, I'll critique one thing that he said during the game today. Lodgy, I think, had at this point 5 or 6 points, and I think Jess made a comment about how I think he used either the term stupendous or phenomenal. He loves the word phenomenal. He's been phenomenal. Like, he's got 5 points. What are you talking about? And they're playing Florida A&M. Anyway,
so I'm all excited about his team.
That's right. It's his team. Anyways, go ahead, Brian.
Yeah. That's awesome. Yeah, the last thing, ironic, I was watching. I don't know how old it was, but it was a podcast that Kenny Murray has, and he had Jess and Chris Kingsbury on there talking, and they were talking, and how a lot of it talking with about Gary Close, Coach Close, how they were, he was like right there every time during the recruiting. I mean, they were like, he was just on them like glue. And then they mentioned about a nickname, I guess, Kingsbury, and said I was half former. Forgive me if I'm saying it wrong. Greaser? That sound?
No, Greasy.
Oh, Greasy. Okay, that's right.
Yeah,
Greasy.
and actually that came from Chris Street, and I don't know how I got that, to tell you the truth. But I never asked him. But I figure when they give you a nickname, and that's it's a nice thing to do. So you kind of roll with it.
You're Greasy?
Chris used to call me Greasy. I think it's because I was so quick, but I'm not exactly sure. But then of course he gave it to me, and they all continued it. So it had nothing to do with my hair. It was always nice and clean.
Yeah. I just saw ironic. I was watching that earlier today. Then before the basketball games, like, oh shoot, I don't have to. If his coach was going to be on tonight, I was going to have to call in and say something about that.
There you go.
That was a good podcast. That was a good podcast. I mean, they shared some memories and a lot of good things to say about you and Iowa basketball and things in general.
Those were the days.
Yeah.
Both Kingsbury and Settles put a few gray hairs in my head. There's no question about it. Chris maybe a little more than Jess, but they're both terrific.
He said that. He said, you remember a time he was in Coach Davis's office and he said something that he wanted him to assert himself more or something like that. And he said, I'll remember. Okay. And he didn't do it.
Yep.
No,
he called me up one time when I was at Wisconsin. Chris did, and he said, I'd like to come down. It was an NCAA tournament game in Omaha that we were playing. And he called me up, and he's a banker over there. And I said, sure, yeah, I'll get some tickets. He said, well, can I have 8? And I said, Chris, what do you think? I can't get you 8 tickets. I might be able to get you, 4 or 6. I mean, I got my family coming, blah, blah, blah. And I'll do what I can. You may have to buy some, but he came to the hotel and in the lobby, and it was good to see him. But boy, he was a great player. Man, he was a great player.
Yeah, he was. Yep.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, I decided it was a great, both men's and women's, great games. Good to not to be stressed to watch the basketball game. It was nice to see blowouts.
Yeah, no doubt.
But yeah, I just love Freeman as a player. He's just going to be fun for him to watch for the next 4 years. It really is. He's going to be good. But thanks for the call. I appreciate it.
Thanks for calling.
For all the Hawkeye fans out there, Sam Laporta just logged his second touchdown of the day.
I had Sam Laporta in my fantasy league, and he did okay.
You do fantasy football?
I do, yeah. I got knocked out. I'm not in the playoffs. My son. I did it with what is that? DraftKings. I did it with that, and my team finished like 4th. I think he had to be in the top 2, but I did have Laporta, and he had some good games for me. How about the stat they had? I don't know what game it was where they had. What was it? It was about tight ends, and Kelsey was first, and the next 3 were all Iowa tight ends.
Yeah, that was most receiving yards for tight ends.
Most receiving yards in the NFL. Yeah, that's amazing. That's amazing.
Kittle, Laporta, and Hawkinson.
Yeah, they're all terrific.
What's amazing about all that, Gary, is we'll see what ends up happening with decisions. It sounds like Eric Hall is likely moving on. I mean, I'll let him make that decision, but they got a couple of tight ends. I mean, they're just they've got prospects just churning out tight ends. But Laporta, I mean, we haven't seen a rookie tight end do this. Not in my lifetime that I can remember. What he's doing up there.
Everything. He catches everything. He's really good. I've had a chance to see them a couple times, and he's good. I mean, if you're a tight end, why wouldn't you consider Iowa? What the success they've had putting guys in the league.
Sam Laporta, 4 catches, 46 yards, 2 touchdowns today is the
I needed him to do that last week when I was trying to stay alive for the playoffs.
I'll tell you, I can sympathize with you, Gary. My team was undefeated. One of my 2 teams undefeated through like 7 or 8 weeks, and then I went on like a 6-game losing streak. And I'm gonna make the play. I think our playoffs start next week. Is that right? Could our playoffs start next week? Maybe they started this week, and I'm just totally oblivious.
Mine started this week.
Okay,
I'm done.
You're done. Before we get to probably our final caller of the evening. Let's go ahead and give a shout out to Iowa Smokehouse. They're with us for another basketball season with Coach Close, and we appreciate Iowa Smokehouse. Let's get rid of the comment here from Erica. Thank you for being here, Erica. But we're going to give a plug to Iowa Smokehouse. Tasting is believing with their awesome meat sticks, their jerky, all of their products available online. You can have it shipped right to your front door, especially when it gets cold outside or a day like today where it's rainy. Why go out in the rain? Just call or visit online, Iowa Smokehouse, iowasmokehouse.com. Use the code Hawkeyes for 15% off your order. And as you use that code and make purchases through that code, you'll be supporting the work being done here from the Hawkeye of the Storm. And yes, it goes great with beer, goes great with a good bourbon or whatever you're drinking on game day. Again, iowasmokehouse.com. Tasting is believing. All right, let's go back to our Iowa Smokehouse call-in line. Thank you for calling Iowa Postgame with Coach Gary Close. Who's on the line?
Good evening, gentlemen. This is John.
Hey, John.
Hi, John.
Coach, you got an interview for the OC, so do I. People are watching Flight Tracker to see if my ultralight leaves for Iowa City.
I'm going to save Iowa a little money. I'm going to drive down.
Might be a little warmer.
Might be a little bit. Yeah, we had actually had nice weather this week up until today.
What was that, John?
Arizona.
What about Arizona?
Purdue beat them.
Oh, yes.
Yeah, and that game was on Peacock, so I didn't get a chance to see it. I was really looking forward to watching that game.
Gary.
Yeah.
I walked you through this. We have to go through Peacock again.
You have Peacock?
You have Peacock. We'll figure this out later. You can watch Peacock whenever you want. You have Peacock. You have access to Peacock, Gary.
You should have told me that. Why are you waiting to tell me now? The game's over.
Tried to tell you this like 3 weeks
ago. I wanted to see that game because I was really impressed with Arizona, and I know Purdue's good. That's a great win for Purdue and the league.
And Indiana lost, I believe, to Kansas. Am I right?
Yeah, my son was telling me, I don't know if it was that game, that was a 1-possession game for almost the entire game. It was that game or something else. I might be mistaken, but no, they must have played well to give Kansas that good a game.
You mentioned
did Michigan State beat Baylor?
Killed them.
Blew them out.
They made like 18 threes. I don't think they've made 18 threes as a team the whole entire year. And they made 18 today or something like that. I didn't think they could shoot a lick.
Well,
and all of a sudden they did today, and that sure makes you look like a better team.
Gary, you did not watch the preseason, the charity game for Maui against Tennessee because you didn't know it was on. Remember you telling me that? It was on Big Ten Network. I watched that game, and this slide that they've had has been mind-boggling to me because they looked great at times against Tennessee. They are a better team than they've shown, and they got guys who can shoot. I mean, I don't know.
They looked horrible against Wisconsin. I mean, they were never in that game. I mean, and that was at home. And then they got beat by somebody else after that, I think.
But I mean, Hogard can shoot. Obviously, Tyson Walker's, lots put on his shoulders.
Walker can shoot. I'm not sure Hogard can, but I think
he was 5 of 1 from 3. 5 of 10 from the field today.
Yeah, he's
Akins
a
can shoot.
penetrator.
Akins can shoot.
What's he shooting from 3 this year?
Akins is shooting on. Well, he's probably not shooting very well because they'd be better. He's shooting 30% from 3.
Yeah, that doesn't do it for me. And they're 2 big guys are average. They're athletic, but they're average, I think. But I could be wrong. They'll get better. They always do. That was
So
a great.
Baylor just not very good then? Is that? I mean,
it's early, and Tom can coach, so they'll get better. But I was shocked. I mean, shock's a little strong. I was surprised how non-competitive they were against Wisconsin, and I didn't see any. I didn't see any Draymond Greens and Gary Harris's out there, but they're young, so they'll get better.
Well, we'll know a little bit more about Baylor in a few days. They got Duke this next week, so we'll get kind of a test.
Yeah, they were undefeated going into that game, and they're well coached. That was a good win. That might turn the tide for the Spartans.
Anything else, John?
Yeah, just real quick. Do you think Caitlin Clark had 9 turnovers today with all her celebrity and fame? Do you think that pushes her to try and do things in a game to live up to her legacy that she might not try if she was just the average basketball player?
That's a good question. I'd have to go back and look at them. I'm sure some of them were, trying to make the great play. I remember a one long pass that she made that was really a pretty good pass, but the girl that was running underneath it just wasn't quick enough to get down there and get it. She's a phenomenal passer. I mean, you don't want her to lose that knack, that aggressiveness. But I didn't watch the whole game. Nine turnovers is a lot, but I bet you contribute 3 or 4 of them to players that probably were surprised by the pass or dropped it, and she got the turnover. Although I don't know that for a fact, but that would be my guess.
Well, to me, they seem like they keep trying to feed it into the post, and it's like playing offense in a phone booth with as many players are down there.
Yeah,
that seems like that leads over to some turnovers.
Yep, for sure. Yep, she's a great post feeder. Some of that's the receiver has got to go get the ball and hold people off, and because I tell you what, if they don't, she'll stop throwing it into them because I know she probably doesn't like all those turnovers. So. We always tried to teach that we're not going to throw the ball until the person that we're throwing it to has got their hands up and they're ready to play. I'm watching the end of the Kentucky-North Carolina game, and I think North Carolina was down 3 and had the ball. Guys bring out the ball. Cordy throws it to the wing. Guy's not even looking, and the thing sails out of bounds. Game's over because he wasn't even ready to catch it. So don't throw it. If those post players aren't doing a good job of going to get the ball, they may not get it as much because, they don't want to turn the ball over.
Thank you, guys.
Thank you, John.
Bet. Thanks for the call.
Bob, thank you for reminding everybody. And Lemansky, yes, hit the like button does help the show. And a couple things here in the chat before we finish this thing off. Cyanide Gamer says, can we all agree it's a rebuilding year for the men? The upperclassmen are just too inconsistent to rely on this year. Well, time will tell, right?
Yeah, jury's out. I think there's a question. The jury's out. I mean, guys like Tony and Patrick have got to play better. Tony showed some signs today. He had 7 assists and only 1 turnover. He's had some turnover problems, so he handled the ball a lot better today. Patrick has struggled. Hopefully he'll get it going. But you're usually only as good as your upperclassmen.
How do you get DeSante? I know DeSante is just a second-year guy. How do you get him going?
His decision-making is really quiet. He takes the ball into spots that you just, and that's film work. That's getting experience. It's a little scary because some cases you just have the knack and sometimes you don't. But he has some turnovers where it's just bad decisions.
But he doesn't turn the ball over that much, Gary. I mean, just talk
about
it.
Just today. I saw a couple that kind of went, whoa. Maybe it didn't end up in a turnover, but it was close. He just looks like he's he's not under control and reading things, and clearly it looks like he's a little disjointed.
T. Hink, thanks for making your picks. Hopefully you join the ESPN Voice of College Football group over with our friends at with Mark Rogers and company. And he adds, I'd be happy with, or I'd like to know more about the Philbin rumor. Yes, I was going to address that last night, and it was late by the time I had a chance to do that, and I just didn't. I'll just sum my comments on the whole Philbin thing up by saying the rumor or the report, whatever you want to call it, that was out there, and I think it had since been debunked by other people in the media. I can confirm that was not true as well. So Joe Philbin has not been offered the job. Probably we'll end up addressing this either tomorrow or Monday, probably tomorrow. So keep a lookout for that video. Eric, who is the best option for OC from the names we have heard? Not Philbin, right? So we have completely switched gears into a football show, Gary.
That's okay.
I mean, I think that you've got options there, right, Eric? I don't think Philbin's a bad choice. I know I can just say this because I think Don would be comfortable with me repeating this. Don Patterson has a lot of respect for Joe Philbin, and I trust Don Patterson. That's one thing. Joe Philbin has head coaching experience. He won a Super Bowl with the Packers as their offensive coordinator. He's been a part of the Iowa staff. He understands offensive line. I would have questions about who's coaching quarterbacks. Would that be Bud Meyer, and what's that look like if Philbin gets hired? Does Bud Meyer then get elevated? And if that happens, who leaves because they can't have, you can only have so many assistants on the staff. So those are all question marks. The other names that are out there, I mean, I won't mention those names right now, but people know those names. I think Kirk has got options. Let's just say that. I know Kirk has options. And this is a more attractive job than some people want to make it out to be. Matt says, my buddy said to look out for Maryland Baltimore County because of their big win as the first 16 seed to win in the dance. Yes, beat Virginia. Remember that a few years ago, Gary? So you never know. Do they have I'm assuming their coach has since moved on. Do you know anything about
I have no idea. I know they're in Baltimore. That's all I know.
Yep. Through my eyes, I had the opportunity to meet Coach Phil Parker the day he won the Broyles Award down here in Little Rock. Got to talk some football with him. Was a highlight of my year. A great guy, and happy to know he had that experience. Well deserved. What a series of, not just this year. He's deserved that award for a number of seasons.
Great coach.
Good question here from Jason for you, Gary. He says, at what point does a coach say don't shoot unless you have a good fundamental setup? Both in the women and the men's teams, when they aren't shooting well, it seems that they are out of balance on their landing.
There's a lot of truth to that. There's a lot that goes into good shooting of being properly set up. All the things you talk about in shooting in terms of hand placement and feet set and going straight up and not floating and twisting. And if you're doing all those things, it's like you're shooting in a moving basket. And then you watch the real good shooters. They're pretty much straight up and down, and they got very little wasted motion in their shot. And so a lot of times you got to tell players that you're not shooting bad. You're just shooting bad shots. And if you can, let's take a look at these shots. And, there's one shot where you're off balance, and another shot where the guy's got a hand right in your face. Those are low percentage shots. So now if you're wide open and missing them, then that's another deal. You got to keep. I know a lot of times we would show clips of bad shots, whether they were heavily contested, whether they were taken a bad time in terms of the shot clock, somebody else was more open and you're shooting, or twisting, floating, gyrating shots that are lower percentage. So you got to keep working on it.
Hawkeye Howard, plan on having a hangout here on YouTube. Probably in the next, first of all, we'll have a live, our marathon live stream. This will be the third year of doing the signing day stream. So Wednesday is National Signing Day. So I'll need some coffee that morning. But Hawkeye Howard, hopefully you can be there for that. I know it's kind of partially during the workday for a lot of people, but a big day. And last year at this time, Gary, on signing day, we were talking about a loss for the men to Eastern Illinois at home.
There you go.
at least we don't have that to talk about. That could have easily been the case today against a bad team in Florida A&M, and Iowa did, which you can't criticize a team for doing what they're supposed to do.
When that caller talks about shooting, there's no greater example of that than Caitlin Clark. I mean, her fundamentals in terms of shooting are off the chart. So it's no surprise that, obviously she's talented. There's no question about that. But boy, you look at her fundamentals, and her shot doesn't change much, if anything at all. It's consistently the same way, and that's one of the reasons why she's so terrific at that.
Are there exceptions to the rule on that? Like some of the greats in the NBA that can get away with either poor fundamentals or not inconsistent fundamentals? Like the reason I ask that question is Don always brings up Patrick Mahomes as a quarterback that violates so many of the fundamental rules of being a quarterback, but he gets away with it because he's just special. Is there anybody that you can think of in basketball?
Oh yeah. There's examples of shooters that, if I were doing a tape on them, I wouldn't have them demonstrate, but they've shot so many shots that they've become really good at it, and that's a part of it too. The repetition and things like that. So there's certainly examples of that.
And how about this? Felt says that adjusted defense went from 168 to 144, all because of this game. How about that, Gary?
What's adjusted defense? I don't know what that is.
Well, I don't. Ken Palm ranks the defense by something. The defensive efficiency. He's got his own metric that's adjusted. I'd have to go on there and read how he does that, but it's adjusted somehow.
Well, what's a good adjusted defensive number?
Well, I think I've read that no team has ever made. I could be wrong on this. I'm sure somebody will correct me. I think I've read that no team has ever made the Final Four with at least without a top 50 adjusted defensive efficiency rating. So
that's their 144th in the country. That's what that is.
Correct. Correct. That's bad. That is bad. And that's
we're going in the right direction. We jumped 20. We jumped 24 spots.
Let's see. We can schedule Florida A&M, Alabama A&M. What are the other A&Ms out there, Gary? Besides Texas, the only one's Texas A&M.
Yeah, that's a good question. Alabama, Florida.
We named some of the other ones earlier, and there's North Carolina A&T. I don't know what A&T. What does A&T stand for?
Probably arts and technology, maybe.
Okay, they sound vulnerable. Let's get them on the schedule.
Yeah, they do. Yeah, I agree.
So, anyways. All right, folks. One final plug for our sponsors before we log off here. RTI Threads, talked about them again, and they'll be sticking with us through basketball season. Visit CD3 Laces Up to support Cooper DeJean's apparel line, and no decision has yet been announced on that front. I urge people to stay locked in because a decision on that looms. CD3LacesUp.com to check out his apparel line. CD3LacesUp.com, and Aaron Graves, Carson Shire, Aiden Hall, Zach Lutmer. Those guys will all be back next year. Check out their apparel and merch lines at RTIThreads.com. And also want to thank Ascent Nutrition. I saw that earlier in the comment section, we had Hawkeye Howard bring up Ascent and their coffee. I might need some of their coffee on signing day to get through that marathon stream. But check out their website, goascentnutrition.com. They've got their lion's mane mushroom powder, which is being shown to support memory, focus, mental clarity, boost your immune system function. You can browse all the wonderful benefits of building your health through Ascent Nutrition and their awesome products. Again, right now we're featuring the lion's mane mushroom and their agarikon mushroom, but they got some new products out right now as well, folks. Read all about them. Visit goascentnutrition.com. How about this red light therapy wristband? If you don't know about red light therapy, read all about it. Visit goascentnutrition.com and start your ascent today.
I better get some of that mushroom stuff.
Yeah, you need. I got some right.
Help my memory a little bit.
Right here. I need. We all need better memory. So, anyways, am I missing anything, Gary? It's been a pleasure as always. I get to see you a lot less during the month of December because, well, I don't really see you much in November because you're gallivanting around the country. And then I don't see you much in December because there's not much basketball. So we've got NFL action over the next few Sundays, Saturdays and Sundays. We've got plenty of bowl games to watch. The Duke's Mayo Bowl. We can watch the
I don't watch those bowl games till they get farther down the road.
Okay. Well, you and I are different in that regard, but
Yep.
you'll be watching lots of college basketball.
I watch college basketball, and I've gotten into the NBA a little bit more than normal. I've enjoyed that with watching with my son. He's a big NBA fan, so he's kind of drugged me along. And DirecTV gave me free NBA pass.
What?
Yeah.
Oh, okay. They've got that deal. Okay.
No, it's no deal. They said I'm a loyal customer, and they gave me free NBA pass. So I get to watch all these games for nothing. It's unbelievable.
Well, you're giving them $300 a month. I'd give you free NBA pass too. If
yeah, I might get 300, but it's 200.
Yeah.
It's 200.
Have you watched the Mavs at all?
I've watched the Mavs a little bit. I'm a Sixers fan, so I watched that. And there's a former Iowa guy, Nick Nurse, doing an unbelievable job. They are a totally different team. I mean, they are so well coached, and he's done an amazing job. So I've watched them. My son's a big fan there too. But we watch the Hawkeyes, former players, and that are still playing. Keegan and so it's been fun.
Boy, Keegan is he's going to be a special one.
He's a real deal. Yeah, he's a real deal.
But he's proven himself in the league. All right, folks. Iowa, the men defeating Florida A&M this evening, 88-52, and the Iowa women behind a big performance from none other than Caitlin Clark, defeating Cleveland State 104-75 down at the Well. Good day to be a Hawkeye. I'll be back with you on Wednesday for a live stream for signing day. We've also got a Wednesday evening game. So, of course, stick around for that. Maryland, Baltimore County, and the Hawks. Stay tuned for more information on programming. I'll have content for everybody basically every day. If you missed the video I published here a few hours ago with Jimmy Sullivan, the 3-star 2025 quarterback that's recently committed to join the Black and Gold, check that out. We'll be talking about Nick DeYoung tomorrow. He's announced that he's coming back for another year. It's been met with some wide array of reception as far as an offensive lineman taking up a scholarship. We can talk about that. And we'll also got an interview with a future Hawkeye going to be published here in a couple of days as well. Coach, thank you for being here.
You're a busy man.
Well, I'm not as busy as you are.
Yeah, I'm sure you are.
Well, you've been busy your whole life, so you enjoy retirement. And
I am. Thank you.
We'll try to keep you working a little bit on this show. But
all right.
We'll plan on talking to you next time. For Coach Gary Close and Corey Hawkeye of the Storm, have a great night, folks, and enjoy your weekend.